Today, I'm going to be talking about worthy, and I'm really talking about your own personal self-worth. So I want you to keep that in mind. But I first want to do a little disclaimer. Some people have gone through a lot of trauma in their life. And I don't want to make it sound like what I'm going to tell you today is an easy fix for everyone. But what I'd like everyone to do is to listen to what I have to say and take those pieces that work for you. And know that no matter what you do with the information, I see each one of you. So I just want to mention that because it can be difficult if you've been in that kind of situation. So I chose the topic worthy because I knew a couple months ago I would be speaking today, and it's Pride Sunday. And I was like, so what can you know what I did, of course. I Googled. So I said, pride, give me some more words. And so worthy came up, and from that, I learned about a brand new book that has been written by Jamie Kern Lima, and it is really speaking to the topic of worthy. So a lot of what you hear today is going to have that, using some of her materials as well as others. But she wrote this book and there is the book. She wrote this book, actually it became published in April, so it's that new. Unfortunately, our store doesn't have it today, but they're getting it in, and you'll hear some other ways that you can get some information about this if it really piques your interest. So the first thing that I did was I said, all right, I need to think about my own self-worth. If I'm going to talk to people about self-worth, I have to talk about my own. And as I thought about this, I realized I had parents that were great at helping me develop self-confidence so that I could audition for plays and musicals. I sang in the choir, so I was comfortable singing. And so there were things that I did. And then, of course, some of you know, I played football with the neighborhood boys. And I was an athlete in high school and became the outstanding female athlete from my high school. And so I had self-confidence. That was not an issue at all. But as I started looking at this topic of self-worth, it became clear to me that that is a whole different thing. And so what I want to say to you right out of the chute is this. Self-confidence and self-worth are not the same. Self-confidence comes from the outside. You heard the things I said that helped build my self-confidence. It was those things that were outside of me that came in, and I found some success, and so that success gave me some self-confidence. Self-worth is innate. It's inside you, folks. And we don't spend a lot of time with ourselves. I don't know about you, but I just don't think we do. We're so out here. We're so involved with everything going out beyond us. And I'm now teaching essential earnest homes, and one of the things that has come up, and it creates great dialogue in this class, is how difficult it is for us to do our inner work, to look inside ourselves, because everything is being given to us by the universe. You do know that since you're sitting here in this audience, and I'm assuming you've taken one or two Science of Mind classes, but the universe gives us everything. It's whether or not we can accept it. And that acceptance is where you start getting that feeling of self-worth. So I just want you to do one thing for me right now. I'm going to force you to go inside for a moment. I'd like you to close your eyes. And I want you to just think, what do I believe about myself right now? Now open your eyes. Are you happy with what you believe about yourself? Yeah, raise your hand if you're happy with what you believe about yourself. Good. Because that's where self-worth comes from. Because it's that deep inner work that we do, and you don't have to, spend hours doing this, but it's always remembering to go within in order to function better on the without, actually. So I want to tell you a little bit about Jamie Kern Lima, since I'm using her work. She is a woman who has, for the last 6 years, has been on the Forbes list of the most successful female business person. She's had a business. She actually was developing a cosmetic because she had rosacea, which is a skin condition, and she couldn't find any cosmetic that would help cover it up. So she had blotchiness, redness. And so in her living room, she created this cosmetic that was called IT cosmetic. And she ended up selling this to L'Oreal, are you ready? For $1.2 billion. With a B, folks, $1 billion. And it's interesting because that's the part of the story where you go, oh yeah, well she probably had some special thing going on. Her life was not easy. She was given up for adoption as an infant. The family she lived in was typical middle class. And she went through all the things every kid goes through, and went through some more interesting things as she became a teenager. And so life wasn't particularly easy for her, but she had a dream of what she knew what she wanted. And that's what Worthy is all about. And what she's done is she's taken her work with this topic and put it into a book form. And what it does in the book, and she also has a website, by the way, what she does is she gives us tools for how we can maybe not get $1.2 billion from L'Oreal, but that how we can feel more successful, how we can understand our worthiness. So she started out, as I said, she had created this product, and Oprah heard about it. See, I think Oprah's got little people out there all over the world who, hear about this. So Oprah heard about her. And at this point, she was starting to make money, but she was also, we're going to hear later, having difficulty getting the yeses to come to her. So Oprah invites her to lunch. They have this lovely lunch together. Wouldn't that be nice? A little lunch with Oprah. And then Oprah hands her her business card and says to Jamie, call me. 4 years passed before Jamie called Oprah. Because during that 4-year time, Jamie was saying, she doesn't want to talk to me. She's so busy. There's so many people that are calling on her and trying to get her to do something. She doesn't. And finally, Jamie realized it was about her. It was about her not thinking she was worthy to call Oprah. And when she called Oprah, her life shifted. And a lot of it shifted because she recognized what was missing in her own life. So a little plug, if you're interested in seeing her story, all the details of her story, she has a Super Soul Sunday with Oprah. You can go on Super Soul Sunday, look up Jamie Kern Lima, and you can watch that. Or you can get the book, and again, it will be here. So there are 3 qualities of self-worth that we'll start with, and then we'll get into some other things. But the 3 qualities of self-worth are recognition of your strengths and achievements, challenging your negative thoughts and beliefs, and practicing self-compassion and gratitude. And I'm going to give you some steps you can go through, and you'll see that echo through each of those steps. But before I do that, I want to talk about one other person who is, I would tell you, on the other side of the spectrum of Jamie Kern Lima, and that is Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman, if you know anything about her, I would assume most do because she's a historical figure, and she's truly a role model for me about courage and self-worth for sure. She was enslaved on a Maryland plantation, and she didn't think that was such a good idea, so she escaped the plantation. And then what everybody really knows about Harriet is she helped with the Underground Railroad, which was the means of getting enslaved people off the plantations into freedom. She was the most important conductor on the Underground Railroad. And as I was doing some research on her, I found some quotes. One was from someone who had done some study on Harriet, and they said, the strangest thing about this woman is she does not know, or appears not to know, that she has done anything worth notice. I think that's part of that worthy piece. Not looking for accolades about, look what I've done, look how wonderful I am. Just so happens if you make $1.2 billion, a lot of people know about you. But Jamie Kern Lima hasn't really been going out there to say, look at me, look at me. She's saying, you too can be worthy. And that is the same thing that Harriet Tubman said. She had a very strong belief in God. She trusted in prayer, and she said, each and every person has the light of God within them. She recognized the worthiness of all of those people that she was helping to free, and she understood her own worthiness, and she knew where that power came from. And I think she's a powerful example of a person who understood what her self-worth was all about. So now we're going to go to the points of the talk. So the first one is, what if you had no fear of rejection? What if you had no fear of rejection? Failure and rejection and those kinds of things come into our life, and it's what we do with them, and that's what her point is. She suggests that the first thing you do is you look at it. You don't do anything with it, you just look at whatever that rejection. And you can imagine the number of rejections that Jamie received around her cosmetic line, because there were lots of cosmetics out there, and she was a single woman who was trying to push her product. She went on to QVC. It's a great story of her life and what she did. She was extremely tenacious. But she said, look at what it is you're fearing, or look at that failure first, and then consider redefining it. In other words, don't call it a failure. Don't call it a no. She says that actually most no's can turn into a yes. But you have to be tenacious. You have to understand that maybe this isn't the right time. Maybe the universe is saying you're not quite ready for whatever this is. So always when you're looking at your fear of rejection, remember you don't live in the past. It's done. Learn your lessons, but don't drag it along with you. One of the things to understand is that fear of rejection, if you get too wound up with it, makes you stuck. And I don't think any of us want to spend our lives stuck. So what I'd say is, if you feel yourself getting to that place, just sit and go within and allow yourself to feel the feelings you have and then let them go. Unless you like carrying that stuff around. I think most of us have lots of bags of those rocks that we've been carrying around, but let it go. So deal with any fear of rejection you might have. One of the examples that Jamie gives in her book, and it's one of many, is the Wright brothers. The Wright brothers tried over 100 times to get a plane off the ground. And then they got a plane off the ground. So part of it, as I said, is that tenacity, that willingness to go further, to not just say, well, okay, that didn't work, so now let me go to the next thing, unless that's what you truly believe. If that's not your dream, then let it go. But if it's your dream, then be willing to be tenacious and move towards it, because it can make a difference. Maria Shriver has said, take off your armor. Take off your armor and dare to be vulnerable. Dare to unwrap yourself and dare to be yourself. I think those are great words of wisdom for us, because we do kind of have this armor thing going on. And so try letting go of it. So the second point is, ready for this one? We all have greatness within us. We all have greatness within us. I'm going to have you say that out loud with me. We all have greatness within us. And the reason I say that to you is from the appearances of our world, we can say, well, yeah, that person has greatness in them, but that person not so much. But the truth is, everybody gets all of the gifts of the universe, and it's what they can accept. Remember I said that? So just remember, we all have greatness within us. And our founder, Ernest Holmes, speaks to that when he says, and I believe it'll be on the screen, you rob no person when you discover your own good. You limit no person when you express a greater degree of livingness. You harm no one by being happy. You steal from no one by being prosperous. You hinder no person's evolution when you consciously enter into the kingdom of your good and possess it today. We all have greatness within us. What are we doing with it? The third point is about transformation. Be willing to transform. The greatest story, I believe, in my personal humble opinion, of transformation is the story of the caterpillar to the butterfly. The caterpillar creates a cocoon, goes into that cocoon, and turns into goo. Sorry, folks. Someone at the last service came up to me and said, don't we all start as goo? And I went, that's probably a great point. We all do start as goo. So just think, you started as goo. But then that goo turns into a butterfly. And my point about this transformation is to say, yes, we all transform. We all transformed from the goo into who we are now. The butterfly, when it comes out of that cocoon, and this was a new thing for me to hear, has wet wings. The butterfly is its most vulnerable as it comes out of that cocoon. So what it does is it hangs upside down on a tree limb or something and shakes itself to get the blood into its wings so that they can dry out, and then it can start flying. Then it can present itself. And have you ever seen a butterfly during a rainstorm? You probably haven't unless you've seen them hiding, because they can't get their wings wet because it makes them too vulnerable. So they go to the ground or they hang from a tree until the weather clears. So this whole notion of transformation has two pieces. One, be willing to transform. Move from where you are now into something higher, better, whatever it might be. But remember, there will be a moment of extreme vulnerability after you've done this transformation. Could be scary. And in fact, I'm going to just tell you that one of the points is that, I don't know, maybe none of you have this situation occurring, but there are naysayers out there. And can you imagine how many people said to Jamie, that's never going to work. Don't even think about doing that. That's a waste of your money, your time. So my caution to you is to tell you to avoid those. If you've got people who think that your dream is not going to work, don't make that your problem. Because here's the thing, your mind will do enough of that. And it's not that you're cutting these people out of your life, I just wouldn't share your dream with them. If they're people that are in your life because they're family or they've been friends for a long time, or whatever that might be, then don't be afraid to be with them. And if you're very brave, share your dream and see what comes back. But I have a feeling you're going to know whether or not they're the type of person that is going to support you or going to try to hold you from your dream. And I don't think any of those people do that to be mean. I think it's just who they are. And you see, I speak from experience. The last point is for us to have faith. Have faith. Martin Luther King Jr. said, faith is taking the first step, even if you don't see the stairway. Because faith is believing in what you cannot see. So you have to believe, I say you have to believe, I'm going to encourage you to believe, that the universe has your back. That God has provided everything. What are you willing to accept? So that you can fulfill this dream that you have. Have faith, have faith, have faith. Remember, you're going to get some no's. There are going to be things that happen, but have faith that this is going to unfold in the perfection that is the universe. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, speaks to this. And what he's really speaking to is when I mentioned to you earlier about your mind. It's going to do a number on you. Oh, I'm just not smart enough. I don't have enough money. I don't have whatever it might be. Here's what Ernest has to say about this. The mind is a magnet, and we attract that with which we identify the self. In order to get the most out of life, we must learn consciously to change many of our habitual thought patterns. This is not easy, for old thought patterns cling to us with great tenacity. But being thought patterns, they can be reversed. If you are filled with fear, refill yourself with faith. For faith always overcomes fear. So you're going to remember to see fear of rejection for what it is, redefine it, find a way to get it into some kind of perspective. You're going to remember that we all have brilliance within us. We all are divine beings. You're going to then understand that if you really want this to work, you're going to have some kind of transformation. And finally, maybe not finally, I would probably start with faith and say, I have faith. I know that I'm going to be able to do this because I have faith that this is what I intended to do. Relax into your soul's purpose. That's going to take some inner work, folks. What is my soul purpose? Relax into your soul purpose so that you can be a beneficial presence out there in the world that we need so desperately right now. This is always funny because this happened to me last time. Being the teacher, and teaching Ernest Holmes, as I'm closing up on a class, I always ask a question. Do you have any questions? But we don't have time for that. So I'm going to send you out to find, to do some work. Do your work, and then do some work to look for, do I really know what my soul's purpose is? That's the big question. And once you know that, what can I do with that? So I'm going to leave you with that as homework. So I want to close with a reading from Amanda Gorman. She was the first National Youth Poet Laureate. She worked on her self-worth from a very early age, and you can read about her if you want to see. Again, life wasn't like somebody handed anything. And so it's always interesting to read this. And this is from The Hill We Climb. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. Let's pray. And if our practitioners would stand up and hold prayer in consciousness, hold our beautiful congregation in consciousness. I am so deeply, deeply thankful for this group of divine beings who comes together every Sunday to honor the divine and to be with each other in community, recognizing that each of our worth also comes from that community, from that sharing, from that commitment to be part of something bigger than each one of us is. I'm thankful to know that each one of us, as the foundation of our being, this is self-worth, that we practice it, that we work on it, so that we can feel the soul's purpose and step into life fully, wholly, in oneness, love, and compassion. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you for this beautiful Mile High Church, for this teaching that reminds us that everything is available to us. What can we accept? So I let this go, knowing that the divine has said yes. The law has said yes to what we truly believe, so we get rid of those limiting beliefs. And we have those beliefs that strengthen us. Thank you, God. And so it is.